But the question is, if you're not offended by other things like comments about the trans community, even Dave Chappelle's own comments about the black community, then how can you would it be hypocritical to be upset about comments about the Jewish community?
How do you start off a monologue with the words, quote, "I denounce any and all forms of anti-Semitism and I stand with my friends in the Jewish community," end quote, and you're still called anti-Semitic? How, Sway? Man, welcome back to another episode of the Ruling Class Podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Didi, back up in this bitch with another video. And if you're new to the show, please know that I'm thirsty to grow. Okay, I guess I don't have any water. I typically have water. You can help me out by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. But don't worry, I'm going to give you a sec to do that. I appreciate you. Yo, listen, for those of you who have been living under a rock, Dave Chappelle went on SNL and gave an incredible monologue, incredible opening speech, addressing the current issues that we all have been talking about, that being Kanye West and Kyrie Irving, right? It was an incredible show. Well, the ADL, or the Anti-Defamation League, the same league that Kyrie Irving was forced to pay $500,000, $500,000 to, that rejected his money, by the way. They didn't want his money because they said his apology wasn't sincere. It was not good enough. So they didn't want his money. The amount of money that would change a lot of people's lives. They didn't want that. They was able to reject it. Well, the same league has now come out, or the same organization has now come out and claimed that Dave Chappelle and his monologue on SNL was anti-Semitic. Did any of you watch it? It was incredible. But it was not anti-Semitic. Now, for those of you out there who want to hop in my comment section and say something like, "You can't tell Jewish people what's anti-Semitic and what's not." That's not what I'm doing necessarily. You have given a definition to what anti-Semitism is. And by that definition, he wasn't anti-Semitic. In fact, he defended the Jewish community. But don't take my word for it. Let's go to the tweet and let's see what he said. All right. And if you go here, he says, Jonathan Greenblatt says, "We shouldn't expect Dave Chappelle to serve as society's moral compass, but disturbing to see NBC SNL not just normalize, but popularize anti-Semitism. Why are Jewish sensitivities denied or diminished at almost every turn? Why does our trauma trigger applause?" What? Like, I don't even understand what he's talking about. Did you all even see the stand-up by Dave Chappelle, or at least the opener, the monologue opener for SNL? He literally said nothing anti-Semitic. How can you open up a speech by saying, "I denounce any form of anti-Semitism and I stand with my friends in the Jewish community," and then proceed to pretty much say everything accordingly? The only thing that he said that you could even say it's a slight, which wasn't a slight at all, is when he mentioned how Jewish people have experienced trauma and horrific things in this world, all over the world. But you can't blame it on black people. That's accurate, bro. It's even bad when your own followers are in the comment section not agreeing with you. Let's read some of the comments. Somebody put a thumbs down and said, "I use this as a dislike button." Somebody else said, "And black sensitivities haven't been denied and diminished since this country's founding." Someone else said, "Did you watch? Did you pay attention? Dave Chappelle was anything but anti-Semitic." Thank you. I just don't get it. And then if you go over here, you have Ivy Mayer says it's coming out fast and furious now. From Kanye West to Taylor Green to Ion Omar to Dave Chappelle, anti-Semitism is being mainstreamed to an extent we haven't seen in recent memory. Now is the time for non-Jewish allies to stand with the Jewish community. We need you. Now, let's go and see what Dave actually said.
Before I start tonight, I just wanted to read a brief statement that I prepared. I denounce anti-Semitism in all its forms. And I stand with my friends in the Jewish community. And that, Kanye, is how you buy yourself some time. And early in my career, I learned that there are two words in the English language that you should never say together in sequence. And those words are the and Jews. I've never heard someone do good after they said that. Kanye's gotten into some scrapes before. Normally when he's in trouble, I pull up immediately. But this time I was like, you know what? Let me see what's gonna happen first. I just want to see where this is all going. I have a lot of Jewish friends, so I'm not freaked out by your culture. I know a little bit about it just from hanging around. Be like, yo, let's go out after school tomorrow. They'll be like, we can't go out. It's Shana tomorrow. I'll be like, where? What is Shana? I had so many questions. Why do some of your people dress like Run DMC? Kanye woke up from that nap, he went right to work. A year ago, I'd seen him on a podcast called Drink Champs. Great show. But when he woke up, he went on Drink Champs again. This time, he was on one. He was mad about something. He said, I can say anti-Semitic things, and Adidas can't drop me. Now what? Adidas dropped that nigga immediately. Ironically, Adidas was founded by Nazis. And they were offended. I guess the student surpassed the teacher. It's a big deal. He had broken the show business rules. Is this a rule? You know, the rules of perception. If they're black, then it's a gang. If they're Italian, it's a mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence, and he should never speak about it. Kanye got in so much trouble, Kyrie got in trouble.
That did not take long this didn't take long for the head of the Anti-Defamation League to respond, Jonathan Greenblatt, writing, we shouldn't expect Dave Chappelle to serve as society's moral compass, but disturbing to see SNL not just normalize, but popularize anti-Semitism. Why are Jewish sensitivities denied or diminished at almost every turn? Why does our trauma trigger applause? Let's bring it to the conversation now. It started, at least, with CNN anchor and correspondent Audie Cornish. Hello to you.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. You had to know it was going to cause some controversy. So what do you...
Which was the point, right? Obviously, he was trying to show this is what it's like to walk some sort of line, some sort of rhetorical line. Everything about it was constructed to act out the idea of cancellation.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it was more about cancellation, sort of bringing people's attention to cancellation rather than... Because this is what I heard from some of, Jewish folks, friends I know, said that I didn't think it was a big deal. He walked really close to the line. He straddled it, and others were offended by it, as Jonathan Greenblatt was. But the question is, if you're not offended by other things like comments about the trans community, even Dave Chappelle's own comments about the black community, then how can you would it be hypocritical to be upset about comments about the Jewish community?
If you listen to Don Lemon, even there at the end, it sounded like he didn't even want to ask the question. It's like he was afraid to even ask if it's hypocritical. Like, what is this about? I mean, that right there speaks volumes. Yes, of course it's hypocritical. You can talk about black people. You can dang sure talk about white people, especially white men. You can criticize white men all day long. You can talk about disabled people, but you can't talk about Jewish people, and you can't talk about trans people. Why? Because they have a history of trauma? A lot of people have a history with trauma. What makes people exempt from being talked about? What makes people exempt from having jokes cracked about them. Everybody should be open to that. You can't scream equality, but then when you're being made fun of like everybody else in society, you want special privileges. Somebody hop in the comment section and tell me what I'm missing here. What the heck is that about? It almost reminds me of the Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro situation that I covered the other day. If you all want to watch that video, here it is here. But it reminds me of that situation. Candace Owens is despised by the so-called black community, generally speaking. I mean, she's anti-black. She's a white supremacist. We hate her, and she hates her own kind, and she married a white man, and all this, that, and the third. When all Candace Owens does is pick up a mirror and put it there for black people. This is you, just like Charleston White. If you don't know who Charleston White is, Google him. He puts the mirror there. Hey, black people, it's not me that's talking. I'm just showing you what you are. I'm just showing you how you. But black people don't like accountability. Anyways, I digress. It's kind of like that, and it's fine. All day long, bash black people. Point out the shortcomings, the hypocrisy, right? The faults of the black community, which I 100% support. I'm glad that she does it. But the second you come out and defend Kanye West and defend Kyrie Irving, their right to free speech or freedom of speech, Ben Shapiro, who is a Jewish man himself, all of a sudden has a problem with that. Explain that to me. You didn't have a problem the however many years she's been bashing black people. But when she insults black or says something that's critical, right, of the so-called Jewish community, it's bashing. It's hateful. It's underlying anti-Semitism. How? How, Sway? You have to call out these hypocrisies. Why is it that there's any group in this world that should be, exempt from having jokes cracked about them? If we can't laugh at our own pain, then what can we laugh at, right? Why should other people have special privileges? Somebody hop in the comment section and tell me what I'm missing. Because your boy lost.
Oh, yeah, Diddy got a podcast.